And we're joined in the studio by Jenny Patient from Sheffield Climate Alliance.
Hello.
Welcome, Jenny. Thanks for coming in. So first of all, can you tell us what Sheffield Climate Alliance is?
Yeah, we're quite a wide alliance of organisations and individuals that's pressing for fair and effective action on climate change, particularly in our city and our city region.
Great.
So we tend to have more of a local focus than a national focus, but we also lobby MPs and things to get the message across nationally as well.
Brilliant. So how did you first become involved?
Well, I got involved a couple of years after it started, and about 10 years ago now, actually. In fact, 10 years ago we had our first conference, and that was the year when there was a big climate event with Al Gore coming to speak in Sheffield, and we had a kind of alternative conference. And from then on, I started doing a newsletter sort of to tell people what actions they could take and how they could get involved in campaigning around climate change. And it's gone from there, really. And a few years ago, we formed a sort of wider alliance, and it started involving lots of different organisations like trade unions, churches, community groups in our campaigns as well. So we're a very mixed, diverse organisation.
Fantastic. So what are the main aims and activities of Sheffield Climate Alliance?
We've got sort of around 5 main campaigns. The most recent one to set up is the food campaign. So people don't always realise there's a connection between the food we eat and climate change. It's not all about fossil fuels, because industrial agriculture produces lots of, let's say, greenhouse gases. I won't put it in sort of, but you can imagine they're coming from the back end of animals, some of it, well, quite a lot of it. So there's kind of issues around what kind of diet do we have, and also what's our agriculture like? Is it industrial, or is it more small scale, diverse, organic, those kind of things, local, or is it kind of all big cows in sheds, that kind of thing? So that's one. Maybe there's a bit of an explanation why is food connected to climate change. But we've also got a campaign against fracking, and we work very closely with Sheffield against fracking on that. Which fracking is a sort of intensive energy extraction which is planned for the southeast area of Sheffield and Derbyshire. So we've got a big fight on our hands there.
Yeah.
And we also campaign around climate jobs, which we really love because it's a kind of positive spin on things. It's like, if we are going to tackle climate change, we need to do lots of work, and that work means lots of jobs and money in the local economy. So actually, let's get on and do those things.
Great stuff. So can anyone join Sheffield Climate Alliance?
Yes, people are really welcome to join our mailing list. We've got about 1,500 people on our mailing list, and we've got about 100 organisations sort of connected with. There's not like a membership fee for either individuals or organisations, but people are welcome to get in touch if they want to be part of the alliance. We've got a beautiful website which is sheffieldclimatealliance.net, and you can sign up for the mailing list there. Great.
And we hear a lot about fracking. You mentioned it just then. Can you explain really simply what it is? Because I'm not sure.
Yes, okay. It is quite technical and quite sort of quite new, really. And they will say, we've been doing it for years. They've been doing bits of it for kind of like aspects of it for years, but they've not really brought it all together in this thing we call fracking. So it's short for hydraulic fracturing, which is basically about injecting water and sand and chemicals deep under the earth, like I talked about, a couple of kilometres down, really phenomenally far down, to break up rock called shale rock, which has gas trapped in it. So it is sort of, this technology is quite new. What it means is you have to create what they call a well pad, really every kilometre or so. You can only... It's not like a mine where you can go down in one place and then you can go for miles underground. It doesn't work like that. It's like quite a localised thing. So if you see the aerial views of America where it's been done quite a lot, you'll see there's well pads all over the landscape. So it's very intensive kind of development. And the other thing that's very intensive about it is it will mean an awful lot of lorry movements on very small country roads. Obviously it happens in the country. It's not going to happen outside the Sheffield Live studio in the centre of Sheffield. It's going to happen at Eckington, Marsh Lane, those kind of places. Very cleverly on the border of different local authorities as well, so they all have to tackle planning applications, and maybe one of them will give in. It has to have planning permission, because so it needs that, but not quite at that stage yet here. But our concerns are really around, the water that is injected, obviously it uses a lot of water, which probably we need for other things like growing food and drinking and having a bath, and it puts a lot of sort of nasty chemicals though it's fairly well regulated in the UK, but then by the time it's been underground, it comes up again and it's full of who knows what, and it can be full of carcinogenic materials. And then that water, massive amount of wastewater, has to be disposed of somewhere. So that's another thing, lorry movements on the roads. Where are they going to put it? Well, as far as we can tell, they're going to kind of dilute it a bit more and put it in the river. I don't think they've got any other plan for it apart from that. And we think that's horrendous. We don't like that. And there's also issues of methane leaking from well casings. So obviously they have to use a lot of concrete to kind of make a well casing to get down through the layers of rock. But they quite often fracture and crack, and then the gas can escape. And they'll be there forever, for years. And there's quite a high chance that some of those will fail, and maybe 25% of those over time will fail. And then we end up potentially with methane in our drinking water, because it's in the aqueous layer in the rock. So that's some of the reasons to not like fracking. And it's definitely stated on record it's not going to make gas prices any cheaper. If people are thinking it, and it's not going to produce a lot of jobs. If we want jobs, there's other things we can do, like insulating people's homes, that are far better at producing jobs and safer and cleaner, and help reduce the 1 in 10 households in fuel poverty in this city.
Yeah, it's very concerning, isn't it? So Sheffield Climate Alliance have got 2 events coming up this weekend.
Yeah, well, they're not our events, actually. It's 3 events I want to tell you about. Keeps multiplying. The first one is actually a march from Mosborough. It's an anti-fracking march from Mosborough via Eckington to Marsh Lane. Now, like a bad girl, I haven't brought the exact time of that, but if people want to find out about that, it's called March to Marsh Lane, and if they search on Facebook or on the internet, I'm sure they'll find the details of that. I think it probably starts at midday or something. And the idea of that is to go to Marsh Lane, which is a very small village where the people are very, very worried about the fact that they've got a proposed fracking site right next to their school, right in the middle of the village, and kind of not what they want in terms of how they want their village to be. They're very proud of how it is, and they don't want it to be turned into a fracking site. So we want to support them, with lots of people from Sheffield going to join that march. The other 2 events, so we've got a conference being held by the churches this weekend, which is on the subject of the Pope a couple of years ago wrote what's called an encyclical, so a big message basically about climate change and the environment and how we can care for our common home. And the Anglican Church and the Roman Catholic Church have joined together to have a day to look at that, and they've got some national speakers in, and it's from 10 till 4 at the Quaker Meeting House, which is near the Anglican Cathedral, just near the Cathedral tram stop. And there is a booking on Eventbrite, and the name of the encyclical is called Laudato Si. So if search for that, or search for Quaker Meeting House on Saturday, the 25th. That we'll find it, I think. So all the events are on Saturday. The other event, we're going to have a stall there, and we've got some of our members going along to that conference. We're really pleased that that's happening. The other event we're going along to the LGBT plus History Month events, which are a fantastic set of events happening this Saturday and Sunday, and also actually Friday night in the Friday and Saturday in the Millennium Galleries, and we're going to be there with our stall, and we're going to be writing some anti-fracking words for a song that was written by a guy called Edward Carpenter. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he was a Victorian socialist and sandal wearer who lived near Sheffield and for about 40 years, I think it was. And he wrote a very famous, or what used to be a very famous song called England Arise, which I've got the words to here, actually. I'm not sure I'm going to sing it, but I can read you some of the words. And it's about, we love our country and we want to protect it and we want to, make things better. So we thought, this is ideal for some anti-fracking lyrics. And we would like to have something that choirs and everybody can sing at the anti-fracking protests. So we thought we'll get people helping us to write some lyrics, which is great fun.
Yeah, great. Can you give us a taste of the lyrics?
A taste of the lyrics? Yes, where are they?
Is that who the Carpenter Room's named after?
That's right, in the library. Yes, in the Central Library.
Yeah.
There's a room called the Edward Carpenter Room. And there's a group called Friends of Edward Carpenter, which are helping to host this event for the weekend. And they are seeking even more of a memorial in Sheffield city centre for this very famous son. I mean, he wasn't born here, but he really loved Sheffield, and he really spent most of his adult life here. And we'd like to see that recognised, in terms of a city centre, something that says he was here, this is what he did, this is why he was important. And he was important in so many ways, really, because he was very much a writer about environment and a lover of nature, as well as writing about sexuality and writing about the rights of women and lots of
before his
reasons.
Time, really,
Totally before his time in many, many ways. Yes. So so it's things like, "Arise, O England, for the day is here. From your fields and hills, hark, the answer swells. Arise, O England, for the day is here." We don't often sing about England, do we? But it's kind of there are certainly our countryside is something I think people are really proud of and really identify with and want to protect. And so that's why we're seeing this as kind of a, something to support the people like in Marsh Lane, who are really under threat at the moment of what's going to happen around their village. So I don't know which bits we're going to change, but we're going to write some anti-fracking lyrics.
Great stuff. So Sheffield Climate Alliance mainly focus locally, as you said. How are we doing as a city, do you think?
Well, there was a couple of things published last week, which was the State of Sheffield report, and that said it didn't really talk about how we're doing on climate change, but we see action on climate change is really linked to lots of other things, lots of other issues. So, for instance, that report did talk about clean transport and effective public transport. That would be something this city could do. It would be really important for people's carbon footprint, because obviously it's all very well saying to people, use your car less, but unless there's actually good bus service, excellent tram service, decent, safe cycle lanes for your teenagers to, be able to go to school by bike, or instead of, all those kind of things, and even just things for pedestrians, good crossings, good safe pavements, all those kind of things, decent bus stops, all those kind of things help us to actually say, oh, well, it's easy to do this. And that's really what we want, the Sheffield Climate Alliance. We want the infrastructure, if you like, to make things easy, to make it easy for people to do the right thing. We don't want to be pushing people to do things that are really difficult. It's not about making life harder for people. It's about actually, if you go to cities in Germany and you see their excellent tram systems, for instance, everybody uses them. From the richest to the poorest, everybody's on them, and and then there's fewer cars on the road. So it's really about saying we could have that. We could have these excellent systems that actually enable us to do the right thing.
And as a fairly small city, it's kind of doable, isn't it?
Yes, and obviously we've got some challenges in geography, because we've got sort of hills and narrow sort of roads built up around them, sort of old sort of routes that are. And you don't want to be knocking them all down to build a motorway, but you want to be making them much more effective. And we've got some other amazing sort of blue-green routes, if you like, along the rivers and the canals. So, can we actually make the most of all these kind of options and do things that make it a city that's easy to get around, where there's always an option, there's always a different option to just jumping in your car outside your house. And that would, for on transport, for example, that's something that would really help. And we understand that the City Council is going to bring in a new transport strategy, and also the city region is thinking about transport. We want the right things to happen on that, because it's very easy for the wrong things to happen. It's very easy for people to say, oh, we need a new road because we need to speed up travel between A and B. But building a new road actually just makes it easier for people to use their cars. And it's really important for climate change to make it actually a bit easier for people to do other things than use their car. So if we had really excellent rail links instead of, and the kind of rail, really excellent, so we had a really excellent rail link to Manchester, for instance, where using information technology, it would be possible to enable people to hire a car at the other end if they needed to go somewhere they couldn't get to by car. But why would you want to drive your car across to Manchester if you could get on a train and then hire a car really easily at the other end? You could do your work, read your book, enjoy the view on the train, and then drive where you need to drive at the other end. So let's integrate it. Let's make it, really